Hello, I'm Jonathan Shaughnessy, Associate Curator for Contemporary Art at the National Gallery of Canada, and this morning I'm at the U.S. Ambassador to Canada's residence, Lornado, and I'm in front of one of Nick Cave's sound suits. The celebrated American Chicago-based artist is here today as part of the Art and Embassies program organized by the U.S. Embassy in collaboration with the National Gallery of Canada. I will be speaking to Nick Cave this morning about aspects of his work and the sound suits, of which you see one behind me. Good morning, Nick.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm well.
Great.
Well, we're here to talk about your work and the evolution, perhaps mainly, of the work that you're best known for, which are your sound suits, and we have one behind us. The sound suits strike many people, I'm sure, as full of color, full of joy, full of life. But the evolution, or at least the instigation of the sound suits, come from perhaps a more tragic and darker place. And I was wondering if you could speak about the first sound suit and where it came from.
Yeah, the sound suit, originated from the Rodney King incident, LA riots in 1992. And so it was, and what I was responding to was just what I was reading in terms of how they brought description to Rodney King's character. This man as someone that was scary, larger than life, worked out with prison weights, took 10 men to bring him down. And I was just envisioning in my head, what would that look like? And then started to think about, myself as a African-American male, and that, I too could be profiled. So then that led me to think about feeling sort of insignificant, less than, dismissed, and those ideas started to shift into looking at materials. And I happened to be in the park one day and was sitting there, and there was this twig on the ground, which I looked at, and sort of what came to mind, that it was just something that I, dismissed, I discarded, I don't really give it much attention, and started then to proceed to gather this abundance of twigs, and that was the beginning of building this sort of sculptural form. And once I built this sculpture, I realized I could physically put it on. And then once I put it on, it made sound. And so that was the beginning of sound suit. And sound, once I started to move in it, I realized that I started to think about the role of protest. And in order to be heard, you got to speak louder, and just this aggressiveness that is applied to that. And things started to evolve more and more through this sort of discovery, and the sound suit, at one point completely sort of removed my entire sort of gender, race, and class. And then I was forced to look at this object without judgment. So it really started to continue to sort of build this amazing sort of image, association to all of these feelings that I was sort of struggling with.
There's less distinctions maybe in worrying about whether this is a sculpture or a costume, and your work seems to be all about those kind of crossovers between art and fashion, between craft and art, all of these kinds of things that seem to just be about the mess of life. It can be beautiful, it can be tragic.
And I have to also sort of pay attention to what, I was surrounded by as a kid. I come from, grandparents that were like grandmothers that are amazing quilters. My mother comes from a family of 16. They're like amazing seamstresses in that upbringing. My grandfathers were amazing sort of woodworkers and furniture designers. And so, I'm being sort of surrounded by all of these sort of amazing sort of craft skills and this sort of creativity that has allowed me to think about, the importance of that now I'm interested in the high art, low art, how we tend to sort of talk about that, and is there really? I'm not sure if there's really these sort of separations or distinctions that have to be separated, as opposed to, how do they sort of merge together and sort of become part of a practice.
And you've been described in sort of along with that, I think, trying to pin you down as an artist, a sculptor, a designer, a fashion designer. I've read many descriptions for you as an artist, as a person, but you refer to yourself as a messenger,
Yeah.
at least I've read. And I'm wondering if you can maybe describe that. And for a Canadian audience, maybe if you've thought about the message you're bringing to Canada being here.
I think, I think that, and I think the reason why I see myself as a messenger, because I want to use my art as a vehicle for change. And it then allows me to then sort of focus on, again, how do I sort of become an advocate, instigator in terms of building work based on the sort of support of community. And the purpose of that is to sort of diversify and to bring people together that tend to don't even realize that they live in the same place. And how can I sort of, again, be part of building that sort of level of awareness? And I'm not doing this work for me. So I think that, what I want the work to do and how I want the work to be sort of impactful and to be sort of employed is that it's really about getting us back to this sort of imaginary sort of state of mind. We tend to exist in the world today where we're not really thinking, we don't really think about our dreams and aspirations. We're all sort of consumed by, job security, which is not there anymore. And so it's a different kind of mindset. But I think it's important for us to continue to sort of have these aspirations about what we would like to be and how we would like to be in the world. And if I can be part of that, be the catalyst of that through this kind of work, that's really what the goal is.